Good day and welcome back to the Family Cyber Clinic. This week we'll be discussing the importance of finding out information large corporations have in your name. Corporations like the NHS, the HMRC, the DVLA, the Electoral Commission, and so many more. But before we go into our discussion proper, I'll ask those who are visiting this platform for the very first time to consider subscribing and click on the bell, so that you'll be alerted when new content like this is uploaded each week. Thank you. You see, during my travels this week, I met this lady, very cheerful lady, and we got on to talk about what I was helping or assisting her in doing. And then she enthusiastically asked a question. She asked me whether I had checked my NHS information recently. I found the question bizarre, but I went on to tell her that I hadn't. I had no need to do that. And she said, okay, well, perhaps her story would get me thinking. And she told me that for several years, that she had been sharing the same NHS number and date of birth with another woman in the United Kingdom. I repeat, in the United Kingdom. She had been sharing the same NHS number and the same date of birth with another woman. She only found out, when she visited her GP for a routine checkup, and the doctor, having pulled up her files with the information she provided, asked how she was coping with the medical issue he noticed in her file. The woman told me she thought the man was, the man being the doctor, was being funny and I was playing a game on her or with her, or he was just having a laugh. So the woman was, the doctor went on to ask her some more questions, all that did not add up. And it became very clear at some point, with the woman now at this point being quite alarmed, that she needed to tell the doctor that all his questions were not, making any sense to her. So the doctor asked her to repeat what her NHS number was, asked her date of birth, and she provided both items. And the man said, "This is your file." So of course the woman and the man now went into more detail, and the woman was even more alarmed to learn that there was a mix-up. Another woman with the same date of birth and the same NHS number was sharing her file. Now let's pause for a while and just consider the implications of this. You may be asking, what does this have to do with cybersecurity? It has a lot to do with cybersecurity because this is a data breach. A data breach. Something has evidently gone wrong. And when I said several years, 17 years, the woman told me. The implication of this breach is far-reaching. Just imagine if this lady was involved in an accident, and an accident that required blood, and the chaps of the emergency services reaching out to find out what her blood type was, get given the blood type of the other woman, which was evidently different. Just imagine it. And that, you can't make this up. This is fact. And it should not happen in the United Kingdom, but it is. And we're talking about the NHS, where you expect to have strict and, very sturdy controls. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is because if it's happening or can happen in a big organization, imagine what will happen to you and I. Our data is vulnerable. Anywhere you go, our data is vulnerable. But the good news, because I know some of you are wondering, where is this all going? The good news is, with the GDPR regulations that came out in May 2018, there is an opportunity for you and I, who are considered data subjects, to request information from these big corporations to make sure that they have the right information in our names. You know, as a data subject, you have the right to be informed, you have the right to object, you have the right to rectify, you even have the right to erase any data that a company has in your name, of course, within reason. If there are no investigations going on that require your information, for example, you know, those are a few exceptions that you may have. But ultimately, legally, companies are bound to give you this information on request. The clinic recommends that we should find out what information big corporations have in our name. Extremely important. We should not assume the information is correct, because it's not. Evidently, by the example I showed or discussed just now, it's not always correct. You know, so it's important that we request to find out within reason. I'm not asking us to all go out and ask for information. You know, if you know that the information is correct, you know the information is correct. You don't need to bother these corporations, but we need to make sure the information is correct. And whenever there's any doubt, yes, then we must put that request in. You know, I don't know how that discussion or that investigation is going to end up, but a data breach is a data breach, and there are fines that are associated with data breaches. The NHS is our NHS, and I obviously don't want to see anything bad happening to our NHS, but a data breach is a data breach, okay? So it's important that we find out information these big corporations have about us. And that's really all I had to share this week. The clinic has learned recently that passwords, you know, we've discussed passwords on this platform, that passwords are on their way out. Oh, yes, they are. They're on their way out because of how vulnerable passwords are becoming with time. And the main reason is because there are just too many we have to remember. You know, I've recommended applications that will help us manage, you know, our passwords. But even that is not enough to stop, you know, the need for using passwords for accessing our information. Alternatives like biometric options, multi-factor authentication, all those things are coming to the fore, and they would replace, in the short term, passwords as we know it. You know, it's becoming a problem. People are writing passwords and putting them under the desk. People are writing passwords on their phones and saving them in clear text. So passwords are not working. So the community is looking for other ways, and I know fingerprints, eye scans, and all that are on the way up. Those are biometric options. They're now becoming prevalent, and in many months or a year or so, ambitiously, passwords will gradually start fading out, and you will not have that burden anymore. But for now, you must continue setting your passwords and make them strong. Okay, strong. If you want the video that will show you how to do that, just click on the info card and watch the video accordingly. But for now, set your passwords as strong as you can make them, as complex as you can make them. But the good news is that they're on their way out, and when they do, you have less to remember and all that. Okay, good stuff. PowerPoint this week: he who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of a fool suffers harm. I'm your host, Cyber Pastor Lawrence Edem. Until next week, God bless and goodbye.